Hey guys, what's up? Lightboltjoe here. Today we're going to discuss the 2016 sci-fi feature film Ghostbusters, the remake, the reboot, the abomination to the film industry. I have referenced this film so many times in so many reviews on what not to do and what to avoid when touching a remake, touching a reboot. And when I decided to start my mini Melissa McCarthy marathon, because Melissa McCarthy is perfect, I knew I would have to get to this film eventually. So I figured I would talk about Ghostbusters 1, Ghostbusters 2, before we then talk about the rebooted 2016 version. The film is written and directed by Paul Feig. Another woman wrote the movie as well. Ivan Reitman, who directed the first two films, Ghostbusters 1 and 2, was a producer of this. Dan Aykroyd, who is Ray Stantz in Ghostbusters 1 and 2, was a producer on this film as well. It stars Kristen Wiig, Leslie Jones, Kate McKinnon, Melissa McCarthy. You also had Ernie Hudson play Leslie's uncle at some given point. Bill Murray was in it as a skeptic at some given point. Harold Ramis had passed away prior to the film being shot, so his son and grandchild and daughter, I believe, are in this film, just as a little guest appearances. But then there's a Harold Ramis statue, just, random shot to give homage, right? So the original Ghostbusters were homaged in this film. Now, the problem with this film, aside from the writing, is the marketing and the story. I know I just said writing, but it's all about the story. Visual effects were stunning. The actors did a great job. Oh, Chris Hemsworth is in it as well. Annie Potts does a reprise of her role. Sigourney Weaver does a little cameo. So all the actors and actresses did a great job with the material they were given. The material that they were given was utter garbage. Now, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the marketing campaign. We're going to talk about the failure that it was at the box office and how everyone despises it, and Sony lost a lot of money from this film. A lot of money. They first announced this film, I don't remember when, and everyone was freaking the freak out because they're like, why the hell are they doing all these reboots now of all these cherished properties that have to have female leads? Just make your own damn movies with female leads. Feminism, great, but make different stories. Don't reboot a classic and just swap the genders. That makes no sense. Imagine if someone decided to say, hey, you know what? We're going to do an all-guy version of Charlie's Angels. People would be rioting in the streets. Just don't do it. Don't do it. An example of rebooting a film or a series appropriately is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That was originally a movie, beautiful hit TV show, which spawned a spin-off, Angel, right? Makes sense. Teen Wolf, MTV's Teen Wolf, based off of the 1980s movie, 85, I think, movie. There was a second movie, right? And then the TV show, had nothing to do with the actual film, aside from main character's name is Scott, gets bitten by a werewolf, plays a sport in high school, and his best friend's name is Styles, and Styles has a Jeep. That's it. That's the only similarities between Teen Wolf, the TV show, and Teen Wolf, the movie. The Walking Dead is an example of what not to do. You have a gorgeously crafted book series, gorgeously crafted graphic novel series, and you just murder it horribly, repeatedly, disgracefully, set it on fire. Just terrible, terrible words that are coming to mind that I'm not going to actually say. And then the show has just been on a horrible downward spiral since season 6, I believe, because they keep destroying the story. And nobody cares anymore. And they announced that they're going to do 3 movies starring Rick Grimes. No one cares anymore. This is why the ratings are failing miserably. Okay, so 21 Jump Street is an appropriate way to reboot a series. 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, hysterical, Sony property. Amazing thing to do. When Jurassic World was rebooted, it wasn't exactly a remake, it was a reboot. It's still the same universe, it's the same characters here and there. There's, obviously a difference in the time. Jurassic World from Jurassic Park, right? It's a continuation of the series, but it's considered a reboot because it's just revitalizing the franchise, right? What else? Pirates of the Caribbean technically is a reboot of itself, even though they're going to do a reboot of a reboot because Disney doesn't want to work with Johnny Depp anymore. Okay, those are examples. Things that work, right? Things that don't work. When you have a beloved franchise of Ghostbusters, right? If you wanted to do a reboot, as in like what Jurassic did, just continue the story, but have it be 20 years later. That makes sense, right? Ghostbusters 3, where are they now? When the trailers were first coming out of this film, the trailers said 30 years ago, you know, friends got together to save New York or something like that. So the trailers are making it look like this Ghostbusters 2016 film, also titled Answer the Call for some various reasons, it looks like it's the actual third version of this film. So you're like, oh, okay, well maybe it is an actual sequel. Maybe it is a 30 years later, 20 years later, whatever, sequel. That these are just the new Ghostbusters, you know, taking on the role because everybody else is retired or something like that. But then there was another trailer after that that was just showing a complete scratch of the original trailer. And then it's like, oh wait, but this isn't the same universe. This is a different universe. I'm confused. And the movie is exactly like that. The movie's confusing because it doesn't know what kind of movie it wants to be. Does it want to be a horror comedy? Does it want it to just be a comedy? Does it want it to be this super infused light show of special effects because it's a blockbuster film with a $144 million budget? The movie does not know what it wants to be, and I blame Paul for it. And it sucks because Paul Feig is an amazing director. He's done amazing work with Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy. He did Bridesmaids all those years ago. He's done great projects since then. But there's so many things that went horribly wrong with this film. We just talked about the marketing. Dan Aykroyd, like I said, was a producer on this, an executive producer on this particular project. And there was a bunch of interviews, actually, for behind-the-scenes stuff that Dan begged Paul to do reshoots prior to the pre-screens. And Paul was very adamant about saying, no, we don't need to do any reshoots. It's great. Everyone's going to love it. And then it didn't work at the pre-screens. And they had to do reshoots, and then it cost Sony a lot of money to do the reshoots. And Dan said, see, why didn't you listen to me? I've done this. I've been with this universe. I know the Ghostbusters. You should have listened to me. And it didn't work. Another thing that I am disgusted about involves Slimer. Slimer is near and dear to my heart. I wear him with pride on my arm every time you see me with a t-shirt or a tank top. You see Slimer tattooed on my arm, okay? That is a gorgeously crafted puppet in Ghostbusters 1, Ghostbusters 2. There is obviously some special effects to give him the glowy astral, plane effect. Paul Feig needed a Slimer puppet on set. Paul Feig hired a company to make a Slimer animatronic that a guy wore as a suit. Visual effects, HD goggles, the works. LED lights, movable tongue, jaw that opens and closes, the works. Had a Slimer puppet for that brief little moment of time that Slimer was actually in this film, right? And then the entire puppet was just disintegrated and completely CGI'd. No. That is, I feel like I feel like Mucho from Mulan right now. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your family, dishonor on your cow. Why spend so much money to make a gorgeously sculpted life-size Slimer puppet animatronic figure for the film if you're not gonna put him in the freaking final cut project? What is the point? Sony wasted so much money on this film. So much money. But it's important for Sony investors to realize that so they never do this kind of mistake again. Ever. Going now to the story, okay? We've talked about my disgust with the marketing. We've talked about my disgust with Slimer. Obviously, I'm very mad. I'm disgusted. I'm disappointed. That's what this comes down to. I am a fan of Ghostbusters, right? Since I was a kid. if you wanted to make this a sequel and have the main characters take up the whole, fine. But when you don't know what kind of film you're actually making until the very, very final week before the film actually starts, and then you have to defend the film before it actually premieres and say, no, it's its own universe. It's not the same universe. It's the whole M theory. It's multi-universe, right? So it's a different universe. It's not the Ghostbusters universe we all know and love from the 80s. You have to defend the hell out of your film before people watch it, because there's so much negative publicity from critics and audiences who've seen it prior to the actual theatrical release. Bad. The story starts out with a ghost in a mansion, right? And then you have your scientists and ex-scientists come together to fight the ghost, and then they need to find a location to form the Ghostbusters, and then they find this Chinese restaurant place as their headquarters, and Chris Hemsworth is playing the dumb receptionist for some reason, but in retrospect, Annie Potts as the receptionist was never dumb. She was a very powerful woman. So to have Chris Hemsworth be a very stupid receptionist made absolutely no sense. How is that equal rights for anyone? Right? No clue. If that's what this whole movie is about, pure feminism, equal rights for everyone, doesn't make any sense. You had all of these vagina jokes. Literal queefing jokes. Literal queefing jokes out of Kate McKinnon's mouth. How are you going to be taken seriously as this girl power movie when you're talking about vagina jokes? I don't understand. There's no dick jokes in Ghostbusters. I mean, yes, there's a ghost blowjob scene, but that's a sex scene. It's a dream of a sex scene, right? I don't get it. There's a difference between a sex scene and dick jokes. There's a difference between a sex scene and vagina jokes. I don't get it. There's no dick jokes in Ghostbusters. I don't get it. So why bring that in? How is that girl power if it's just a queef joke? I don't get it. Then there's a joke about soup randomly. So the problem with the writing was the movie is like it gains momentum, right? And you're like, okay. It's a different universe. Okay, I'm going to watch it. It's a different universe. They're different Ghostbusters. Okay, I got it. I'm here. Okay, awesome CGI. They're going to fight this. They're going to do this. Okay, stupid joke. Pointless joke. Momentum stops. Oh, that was a good one. I was like, I literally just smacked someone across the face. See if I can do it again. No. Tingling hands. We got that. When you're making a blockbuster film, now, of course, who am I? Because I've never made a blockbuster film yet. I've seen a lot. I've talked a lot. I study film. It's just what I do. So I know what I'm talking about because I've studied it. When you make a blockbuster film, you have to have a certain level of special effects. Yes. You need to have a certain score in the background for composition's sake. Yes. You need to have beautiful cinematography. True. Set design, prop design, everything has to be on point, okay? Your actors need to know their lines. They can improv when they need to, which is fine. That's fine. But the story needs to flow functionally. When you stop randomly to tell a joke about soup, of what there's to live for, no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The best part of this entire film was the kid who plays Deepinder in Deadpool. I can't remember his name. It's a Pakistani kid. He's probably in his 30s. Tall. He was in those commercials a lot. I think he first started on The Middle. He was a classmate of Axel Hex on The Middle. Distinctly remember that. He was in what brand was that for commercials? AT&T, I think. I think he was the AT&T guy. Now he's in a Dr. Pepper commercial. He plays Deepinder in Deadpool. I don't know his name. He's awesome. But him playing Benny, the Chinese delivery kid, hysterical. That was the best part of the entire movie. His scenes. That's it. It's literally the only point of watching that film was for that actor. That's it. Again, I don't blame the four main actors for their roles. I blame Paul. I 100% blame Paul, and I 100% blame Amy Pascal, who's the ex-CEO of Sony Entertainment, and rightfully so, because just awful when it comes to the putting together of this film. I don't blame Ivan and I don't blame Dan, because both of them had hopes of bringing it to the next generation. But again, if this was a third movie, that would make sense. So what happened? This movie lost a lot of money. 2017, Sony had a $1 billion write-off or something like that in the amount of money that they lost for their whole film library for 2016. And Ghostbusters was a major chunk loss of that $1 billion. And I laugh when I heard that. I was like, see, this is what you don't do. But Sony is smart because they know now what not to do. So what did they do? For the fourth Men in Black film, which comes out this summer, next summer, I don't remember. It is a sequel reboot, just like how Jurassic World did it. It's the same universe, but different characters in a different area. But it's the same universe. Smart. Ghostbusters 3 comes out next year. So this is Sony's redemption. And I 100% support Sony's redemption because Jason Reitman is directing this film. He is going to make this third Ghostbusters film in the same universe as 1 and 2, right? We don't know if the main actors are going to be reprising their roles. Finn Wolfhard has been rumored to be playing someone's son at some point. I'm all for it. It's the same universe. Even if they replace the original Ghostbusters with new Ghostbusters, but use the firehouse as their main headquarters, I'm for it because it's the same universe. It is now marketed as the same universe. It knows what it's going to be. The 2016 Ghostbusters reboot, Answer the Call, did not know what it was supposed to be. Was it supposed to be this feministic empowerment movement? Was it supposed to be a horror comedy? Was it supposed to be a sci-fi adventure thriller? What the hell was this movie supposed to be? No one knows to this day. And this is why it's taken me a very, very long time to actually sit down and discuss the problems of this film, because there are too many. But Hollywood learned from this film to never, ever do anything like this, ever again. This was a necessary fail, but it's unfortunate because a lot of good people's names got dragged in the mix. Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, nobody deserved, Chris Hemsworth, none of them deserved this piece of trash that was executed, because they all are amazing, amazingly talented, I was going to say creatures, amazingly talented actors and actresses. Whew! I think we've talked enough. I hope I've covered everything as to why this movie was terrible. And yeah, as Bob Ross once said, we don't make mistakes, we only have happy accidents. I think I paraphrased. I think it was a little bit different, but this was a happy accident for sure. Long live Depinder. Mucho mahalo, guys.